on. Yeah, yeah. Might be dead. Like, but that's fine. What wire do you have? Do you have a wire? No, I have no wire. Yeah, you have. Hold iPhone. Yeah, yeah. Oh, wait. Try this one. Okay. Go to Safari. And you just type in dream. Copy. You? Yeah.
Please look out. 8 and 9 years old. Could you let one of the people in the supervisors know, please, if you see someone? 2 kids are missing. Also, Sister Glam Abbas Abdul Rasul, sorry to call your name out, but you've dropped your card here. So if you want to collect that from the stage and just let someone know, we'll get that to you. Thank you so much, everyone. We've got a great list of speakers here. People who've been tried and tested, who've stood up against the oppression that's meted out to them in this country by the Zionists. And I'm really proud to say that there's a lot of them here today. We're going to keep them relatively short. We know a lot of you are fasting and come from a long distance, and many of you have got long distances to go. So please, I beg that you just remain silent and listen to them with the purity of heart with which we've all gathered here. And whilst we do that, can we just have a nice loud cheer for our rabbis from the Neutral Character movement, our Jewish brethren who've joined us here. Thank you so much, rabbis.
Let's get one message clear. Israel is a racist settler colonial state. I said Israel is a racist settler colonial state. Built on bloodshed, built on an ethnically cleansed land, and continues to ethnically cleanse. We must not understand these as moments in history, as events of the past, because Israel continues to exploit. Israel continues to steal. Israel continues to attack Palestinians namelessly, indiscriminately. Within our lifetime alone, just our lifetime alone, we have witnessed Palestinian journalists murdered. We have witnessed Palestinian paramedics such as Razan al-Najjar shot dead. We have witnessed disabled Palestinians killed. We have witnessed pregnant Palestinian women in Gaza blown to bits. In our lifetime, we have witnessed the bombs that rain over Gaza. In our lifetime, we have witnessed the humiliating checkpoint system that regulates the movement of over 5 million people. In our lifetime, we have witnessed a military blockade that dictates the movement of people. You guys are angered here today because the police are telling you where and where not to go. Imagine 5 million people. Your movement is dictated by structurally violent policies that humiliate you. Within our lifetime, we have witnessed these Israeli war crimes in Palestine.
Palestinians have faced an ongoing Nakba, which has intensified since last year. Nakba describes the 1948 catastrophe, when hundreds of thousands of Palestinians fled for their lives. The ongoing Nakba, since 1948, means continuous Israeli theft, coercion, threats, and violence, which together make everyday life more dangerous or even impossible for Palestinians. Ongoing means normalized. Such terrorist behavior becomes normal for the Israeli forces and for ordinary Israelis. Western mass media treat Israeli terror as normal and so as less newsworthy. And such terrorist behavior is incited and led by Israeli politicians. Why has there been an ongoing Nakba? The Israeli regime emerged from the 19th century Zionist movement, which aimed to create a Jewish supremacist state in all of historic Palestine. It was modeled after the settler colonial regimes that European countries had created in the global south, such as in Australia and Southern Africa. Since 1948, there have been Zionist calls to finish the job, as they say, to find ways of expelling the Palestinians who remain. This is the logical, violent consequence of Zionism.
Just a week or so ago, we saw the Israeli military attack and arrest 400 Palestinians for praying at Al-Aqsa Mosque during the holy month of Ramadan. They beat our brothers and sisters, and then they attack the people of Gaza. Gaza, which even David Cameron, who sat in that building over there, described as the world's largest open-air prison, which is one of the most densely populated areas on earth, where the majority of the people there are children, and the majority of the people there are refugees who've already been displaced from other parts of Palestine. And routinely, Israel uses the Palestinian people in Gaza as a testing ground for their weapons. They will fly their drones over the skies of Gaza. They will surveil their every move. And at any moment, these drones can turn and drop missiles on their heads. And every time they do, they will go out and say that their weapons have been battle tested. Battle tested on the captive population of Gaza. Elbit's weaponry, their tanks, their bullets, their drones, their tear gas, their white phosphorus is made by this company who build their weapons across this country. In Palestine Action, we were sick and tired of appealing to the powers that be. We were sick and tired of trying to appeal to the politicians, some of which reside in that building, because every single government in Britain for the past 100 years has been complicit in the oppression of the Palestinian people.
What's happening now in Palestine didn't start this Ramadan or last year's Ramadan. It's been happening for every minute of every second of the last 75 years. The violence Palestine is enduring has been happening every single day that the Israeli settler colony has existed, and Palestinians will continue to be victim to that violence for as long as the Israeli settler colony continues to exist. If Israel's existence is on the rubble of Palestinian villages it has destroyed, and if Israel's existence is on the mass graves of the native Palestinians it has murdered, then Israel has no right to exist. If Israel's existence depends on stealing my family's home in Jerusalem, if it depends on militarily occupying my family, if Israel's existence depends on ethnically cleansing my family, my father, my mother, my brother from our native land, then Israel has no right to exist. Israel is not a state, it is not a country, it is a group of settlers. It is a settler colony squatting on Palestinian land. We demand the dismantlement of the Israeli settler colony immediately. We demand the decolonization, the liberation, and the freedom of Palestine now. Be clear, do not hesitate, do not pander in the face of our oppressor. Anyone uttering anything different is not standing up for Palestine. If you, your MP, or any politician that claims to be representing us are not calling for Israel's immediate dismantlement, then they are complicit in Israeli oppression. If they say they support a two-state solution, they are complicit in Israeli oppression. If they are not categorically stating that the Israeli settler colony built on the mass graves of my ancestors has no right to exist, they are complicit in Israeli oppression.
This is for Palestine, Ramallah, West Bank, Gaza. This is for the child that is searching for an answer. Wish I could take your tears and replace them with laughter. Long live Palestine! Long live Palestine! Long live Palestine! So I think the important thing to do also is to contextualize what exactly is happening at Al-Aqsa. Now, the Israeli regime, through the Ministry of Culture and the Ministry of Education, funds several organizations that have the explicit intention of the destruction of the two masjids at Al-Aqsa. and the replacing of them with a temple. This is not an immediate plan, but this is something that these organizations have been working for at least since 2008, receiving funding from the Israeli regime. We have to be realistic. These acts are not random and they are not irrational. So when you see people attacked and stopped from performing i'tikaf, what is actually happening is Israel is establishing the safe passage for these settler groups that have the explicit intention of breaking down those structures. If we seriously want to save Al-Aqsa, then we have to look at ways within this country that we can make it harder for Israel to do what it wants to Marabitun in Al-Aqsa al-an. So for example, Elbit Systems is the parent company of a company called IMI Systems. Every single time you see somebody shot in the head with a rubber bullet in Al-Aqsa, those bullets come from the company by the name of IMI Systems. Now, Elbit Systems had 10 sites in this country. It doesn't anymore. And if you want to know why Elbit Systems only has 8 sites left in this country, 2 words: Palestine action.
The days of the apartheid Israeli state are numbered. I know it, you know it, but so do the Zionists know it as well. You only have to look to the former Israeli Prime Minister, Ehud Barak. He said that the Israeli state is likely to disintegrate within the decade, before the end of this decade, and it can't come too soon. And then, of course, we've got Yitzhak Brik, a former general in the Israeli occupation force. He described the Israeli population as like the passengers on the doomed Titanic. So the message is very clear, it's getting through. And the former Prime Minister, Naftali Bennett, said that Israel's existence is in jeopardy. He said that only last year. Is it any surprise? Because Israel, as we know, is a terrorist state. How else can you explain a regime that uses exploding bullets to shoot children so that they know that somebody who's struck in the leg by one of these exploding bullets is almost certain to have their legs amputated? What a disgrace! How outrageous! What about the way that the Israeli regime detains children, bulldozing people's homes, killing journalists, and bombing Gaza, the third most densely populated place anywhere on earth? Every time Israel launches a bombardment of Israel, they know that they're going to kill innocent children, men, and women. It's a war crime, it's a disgrace, and they should be condemned by every nation in the world for their crimes against humanity. But that's the reality, isn't it, of Zionism? Zionism is a racist, settler colonial ideology. And the apartheid that's practiced in Palestine by the Israeli regime is even worse than that we saw in South Africa. That's not me saying that. That's the late, great Archbishop Desmond Tutu, a veteran of the struggle against apartheid in South Africa. That's why worldwide support for the Palestinian cause is growing.
We are happy today here. We are proud of this humanitarian rally, march. We are all united for humanity, for the basic right to live in a home, a family. What Almighty God granted to us and to humanity. We are here today. Doesn't matter where you come from, and there's nothing more united than this, as we all, the Almighty creations. We have the right to live in peace, in dignity, with respect, something what people don't seem to understand, don't want to know, don't want to understand. This march is called Al-Quds March, Jerusalem, the heart of the Holy Land, the heart of the Middle East, the heart of the world. We want peace and justice. As Jews, loyal to our Torah, I'm going to tell you something. Judaism is a religion of peace, respect, justice, and we are in a state of exile. We are supposed to wait for the Almighty God's redemption, universal redemption, which will bring peace and harmony and brotherhood to the world. This is what we are here where we have been the last 2,000 years. And these Zionists, they brought a curse, a misfortune on us all, on us Jews and on Palestinians. We used to live together in peace, in brotherhood, without any problem in Palestine, yes.
Free Palestine! My friends, this is the last march against Israel. Next year, we will celebrate the Qods Day in a free Palestine. Together, Muslims, Jews, Muslims don't hate Jews, they're hating occupiers. We have a beautiful life in all the Muslim countries. Take, for example, Iran, Morocco, Algeria, Tunis. Everywhere Jews live in peace. The only danger place for Jews, not to speak for Palestinians, is the state of Israel. Israel didn't bring any peace. Israel only bring a disaster. We hope and pray for the full dismantlement of Israel, and from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. We hope and pray for peacefully and speedily dismantlement of the state of Israel. Free Palestine! Free Palestine!
Let me ask you a question. What are your hopes for Al-Quds? What is your vision for Jerusalem? What do you pray for Jerusalem? Is it a return to 1967 and Jordanian rule, or the British Mandate of 1917, Ottoman rule of 1517, the Mamluks of 1250, the Ayyubid dynasty of Saladin from 1187? Or do you long for a return to the Islamic Caliphate of 638, or earlier, the reign of Herod, Alexander, Artaxerxes or Cyrus, or a return to the kingdom of David and Solomon? In its long 5,000-year history, Jerusalem has been destroyed twice, besieged 23 times, attacked 52 times, captured and recaptured 44 times. Jesus was not the first, and he will not be the last to weep over Jerusalem. The Bible tells us as he approached Jerusalem and saw the city, he wept over it and said, if you, even you, had only known the day that would bring you peace. But now it is hidden from your eyes. The days will come upon you when your enemies will build an embankment around you. They will encircle you, and they will hem you in on every side. They will not leave one stone on another, because you did not recognize the time of God's coming to you.
Remember, this is going to Palestine. The people of Palestine are going to see this solidarity. I said, good afternoon, brothers and sisters. All right. Black Lives Matter here, showing full solidarity with the people familiar. It was very, very familiar. A small group, a very, very small group of people came to disrupt this demonstration, and I heard what they were saying. They were calling you terrorists. That's what they were saying. They were saying terrorists on our street. And let me tell you something, brothers and sisters. This is a very well-rehearsed tactic used by white supremacists. Yes. You remember Nelson Mandela? You remember him? Yeah. When Nelson Mandela was fighting against apartheid in South Africa, what did they call him? They called him a terrorist. Do you remember? Do you remember the governments across the world, all nations turned their back on South Africa? Do you remember? Because they said he was a terrorist, and that man was freed from jail after 25 years, and he became the Prime Minister. Do you remember that? So he can't have been a terrorist. Do you see what they're doing to Palestinians? Do you see it? Do you see when Palestinians rise up against subjugation and brutality? Do you hear what they call them? The well-rehearsed tactic. They call them terrorists. They're fighting for freedom. They are freedom fighters. Solidarity to the people of Palestine. If you love Palestine, hold your hand in the air. You know what I define as terrorism? I define terrorism as a state deliberately murdering children. That's how I define terrorism. I define terrorism as a state deliberately murdering women and pregnant women. That's how I define terrorism. I define terrorism by a state that murders journalists.
Mic check for those at the back. No justice. I can't hear you. Those at the back. No justice. If we want peace for Palestine, we must understand war. This war, this occupation that's been inflicted on Palestine by the state of Israel, it has two fronts. The first war is to conquer Palestine, to ethnically cleanse a land of people who will never surrender. The second war is to conquer our mind. And unfortunately, many of us have already surrendered. Let me explain. So long as Israel successfully misframes Palestinian resistance as a bunch of so-called anti-Semitic, mad, bloody Muslims, then most of the people you know are going to hesitate to defend them. Really reflect. Where is everyone you know? Why aren't they here? They are afraid of being labeled apologists of so-called anti-Semitic Muslims, even though their silence allows Israel's brutality to continue. They have already surrendered to the supporters of Israel, to the Zionists. But nothing gets better by surrendering. Nothing gets better by silencing your voice. It only gets worse. We're already seeing it happen. Israeli forces attack Palestinians at important Muslim sites during important Muslim times with complete impunity. Then when Palestinian resistance inevitably, legally retaliates and talks about defending the honor of Islam, bam! Israel has a propaganda win and distracts the world from its oppression by labeling the oppressed anti-Semitic. Then Israel can reliably rely on the lies of the Islamophobic bigotry of the politicians and the media pundits of its ally countries to keep misframing Israel's occupation and Israel's wars as self-defense against Palestine. This is their strategy that we must understand. This is what Zionism looks like. Do you want to see a free Palestine? Come on, guys, wake up. Do you want to see a free Palestine? Then we must defeat their strategy. If we want a free Palestine, we must actively oppose Islamophobia. We must fight back in this war for our minds.
With some trepidation, I come to London. You've got some trouble here with the cops, especially if you're brown-skinned. There's been mass rape, there's been murder by cops, there's been all sorts of terrible scandals. But that's nothing compared to the Israeli police. The Israeli police are under the control of Ben Gvir. Ben Gvir calls for the mass killing of Palestinians. He has been given by Netanyahu his own militia. and they will take second place, not at all to the stormtroopers of an earlier time. This man has a shrine in his home to a mass murderer of Muslims in Hebron in the mosque there. This man is captured on video at a party, Jews dancing, settlers dancing, stabbing a picture of a baby, Ali Dawabsha, 18 months, who was burned to death with his family. Ben Gvir celebrates this. This is the depth of depravity. You could not think of a more disgusting thing. And he's the Minister of Police, charged with crushing the Palestinians. It's a very dangerous time for the Palestinian people. The first time I took a delegation to Palestine, I met an old lady crying. The tears were streaming down her eyes, and she saw a group of foreigners, and she said, "Help me! The Israelis have the bodies of my 2 sons, and they will not return the bodies until I pay a very large sum of money. Help me! Surely you can do something."
Comrades, brothers and sisters, I welcome you all on behalf of the Revolutionary Communist Group, Fight Racism, Fight Imperialism. This year is the 27th anniversary of the Nakba, the Palestinian catastrophe, 75 years of Zionist land grabbing, the expulsion of the Palestinian people from their own land, 75 years of war against Palestine, 75 years of aggression, terrorist raids, repression, racism, mass incarceration, murders, assassinations, massacres inflicted on the Palestinian people. 75 years of constant drive to obliterate the name, history, and the culture of Palestine by the colonial settler state of Israel with direct military, diplomatic, political, economic, and financial support of the imperialist British state. And yet, the resistance of Palestine is undefeated. The heroic struggle of the Palestinian people for liberation is unbreakable. Palestinian resistance for national self-determination continues on the land, in villages, continues in the neighborhoods, in the cities. It continues in the dungeons of the Israeli state, in the refugee camps. Since Nakba, the people in Palestine have proven that no war, no airstrike, no prison sentence, no administrative detention, no night raids, no military assault, no drone attacks, no targeted killings, no settler violence, no racist discrimination can break their will and their resolve.
Folks, I want to say thank you to the Justice for Palestine committee for inviting us. And I have a special message from our chairman, the leader of our movement, Chairman Omari Stella. We are winning. Just say after me, we are winning. I want everyone to know we are winning in Palestine. We are winning. We are winning. We are winning. We are winning in Palestine. It's in Palestine. We are winning in Palestine. We are winning in Africa. We are winning in Venezuela. We are winning in Cuba. That's really important. The reason I'm here today, because we are winning. And when I say we are winning, I want to say the resistance in Palestine cannot be defeated. The resistance in Africa cannot be defeated. And this has to be clearly understood by everyone. The question of Palestine is one of the most important struggles for freedom in the world, where stateless people face every day the Israeli army, which is nothing but a US military outpost in the Middle East. That is what the Israel army is. The question of Palestine is also important because, as you know, anybody who criticizes successfully the Israel colonialists is attacked, is being criticized of being what? Anti-Semite. Let me make it clear to everyone.
Thank you for having me here today. It's a privilege to be speaking with you all. My name is John Maxted, and I'm here today as a representative of both the Workers' Party of Britain and as an activist with No to NATO. I bring a message of unequivocal support and solidarity from my party to the Palestinian people as they toil on in their resistance to the ongoing occupation of their land and the dispossession of their people by the Israeli settler state. The gravity of the Palestinian national struggle is spelt out in starker terms than ever today, spelt out by the recent assaults on Al Aqsa Mosque. Worshippers there have been brutalized and denied their right of worship by police from the Israeli establishment at this, the most sacred time in the Islamic calendar. The Workers' Party categorically condemns this violence and calls for the immediate release of the many people snatched from Al Aqsa and currently held in custody by the Israeli authorities. Amidst the beatings and the heavy-handed arrest of hundreds of worshippers, yet more lives have been lost. On April the 1st, Mohammed al-Asibi, a young Palestinian physician, was shot dead while on his way to Al Aqsa Mosque to worship there. According to witnesses on the scene, he was shot more than a dozen times while intervening on the behalf of a female worshipper as she was being harassed by Israeli police. Less than half a month later, these officers, accused of his murder, were declared innocent at court. This young man's death marks just the latest murder in a tally of thousands of others that stretch back over the decades throughout occupied Palestine. Tragedies of this kind have become routine for the Palestinian people. Every day, men, women and children living throughout Gaza and West Bank walk through life with the constant threat of a violent death looming over them, found at the hands of the Israeli state and their murderous thugs, working hand in glove with settlers so as to seize what small specks of Palestinian land and homes still remain free. Such brutal and systematic violence against a people cannot be tolerated for long. But these same people will inevitably come to understand that in the absence of any other means to pursue their freedoms and rights, the only choice left for them is to resist. This is a bitter lesson the Palestinians have learned all too well. Of course, we here in Britain have to acknowledge our own role in this travesty. After all, it was our government's actions that spurred this nightmare into motion when it incorporated the Balfour Declaration into the mandate for Palestine. Even now, more than 100 years after the fact, the heirs of the British political establishment that disenfranchised the Arabs have averted their eyes from this legacy, sitting silent to the plight of the people whose nation they bartered away in the name of British imperialist interests in the Middle East. Indeed, the current crisis in Palestine is nothing less than an enduring hangover of our own imperial past, the onus for which is borne not by this or that political party, but by the British ruling class as a whole.
I really congratulate every single one of you. I know you're tired. I know it's been a long day. I know most of you are fasting. But really, this is the spirit that is needed to make sure that we see the end of this abomination, this regime of Zionist apartheid system. You know, around 25, 30 years ago, if you said that this regime is going to be gone, people were thinking, oh, come on, are you serious? Now, everybody knows that this regime is going and is on its last legs. The only question is left is what we're going to do to make it happen sooner rather than later. And also, what do we want to replace it with? We want to replace it with a system that Muslims, Jews, Christians, everyone is actually free. Everyone is honored. Everyone feels belonging and empowered. And this is the difference between us and the Zionists who are there. You know, even they know that their days is outnumbered. This is why this year we had only 20 of them. I really was thinking that we should have got them some mirrors to put around them to make them look bigger than what they are. because their numbers is declining while our numbers is increasing. And this is one of the signs of Allah that victory is just around the corner and we will be victorious. My only thing to say is that on behalf of the organizers, I would really love to, from bottom of my heart, to thank the volunteers, everyone who has worked so hard to make today happen. Thank you so much.
Before we commence with the dua, I just say a couple of words, inshallah. Since we are just after the days commemorating the Shahadat of Mawlana al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib, there's a saying that I want to bring which is quite appropriate to our moment of conversation. There's when our Imam was becoming martyred, when he was martyred, he left a will and testimony for his son, Imam Hassan and Imam Hussein, in which he says, Kuna lidhalimi hasman wa li-mazlumin awnan, which means be an adversary for the oppressor and a helper to the oppressed. And in reality, the events that have unfolded for well over these numerous decades in East Asia, because that's what it is, where is the colonial power which defines that area as Middle East. Middle of which East? No, that is Central, that is East Asia that we are referring to. So we have to realize that these are little specialities of the colonial powers to leave behind a hatred of themselves, ourselves. No, we have a particular identity and it has been pressed. The biggest oppression that anybody does in the world is to oppress, is to usurp somebody's property. Usurpation is the biggest zulm, is the biggest oppression that can happen in the world. And the Palestinian land has been usurped by a people who don't even care that they're usurping and living on somebody else's land. And this usurpation has been common. In America, the natives' lands were usurped. In Australia, the Aborigines' lands were usurped. In Africa, the black people's lands were usurped. So this usurpation is a major oppression that exists in the society. And this is what the occupiers of Palestine are doing. They usurped a land of a people which is not their property to have. So in reality, we should be contesting everybody on this particular point. So therefore, I'll just conclude with inshallah the dua wahdat, in which alhamdulillah we all have an opportunity to pray together. The dua goes like this, inshallah. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. La ilaha illallah ilahan wahida wa nahnu lahu muslimun. La ilaha illallah wa la na'budu illa iyyah mukhlisina lahu ad-din walau kariha al-mushrikun. La ilaha illallah ربنا ورب آبائنا الأولين. لا إله إلا الله وحده أنجز وعده ونصر عبده وأعز جنده وهزم الأحزاب وحده فله الملك وله الحمد يحيي ويميت ويحيي وهو حي لا يموت بيده الخير وهو على كل شيء قدير برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. صلوات.